More great stories from the Hatteberg Vault are queued up and ready to roll.
We'll take you to Salina, where Nona Boyd lived her quiet life she loved so much. Now, she turned down an invitation to the White House.
Also, see how the crew at a small-town newspaper put their talents to use to help rebuild a local church destroyed in a fire.
Plus, you'll meet the master photographer who snapped some of the most iconic pictures of Kansas and Wichita. But as devoted as he was to photography, his lovely wife always came first.
And we'll travel back to 1982 and the scene of a movie that was being shot in Lawrence. Now, the film was a blockbuster hit. Some say it even helped end the Cold War. Hello, I'm Susan Peters.
And I'm Larry Hatteberg. Those stories and many more are coming up on this week's edition of Hatteberg's People. These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. We begin with a once-in-a-lifetime chance, a moment on the national stage, a moment most of us would grab in a heartbeat.
But not for Nona Boyd. It was an invitation she had no problem passing up. The year was 2006.
Nona Boyd lives in a house that looks like where a grandmother should live. Not long ago, living a quiet, normal life in Salina, an unexpected thing happened.
I came home. I always checked the machine to see if either one of the kids had called or grandkids. And here was this message, so I punched it and listened to it.
This is Lou calling from the White House. Mona, Mrs. Bush has invited you to come to a reception.
And I thought, somebody's pulling my leg.
If there's any way that you might be able to attend, or if we can help you with any more information, please call us. And again, this is a reception for the 505 AAA Battalion.
That battalion was her husband Clyde's unit. He fought in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. He died a few years ago.
Well, come to find out, Mrs. Bush's father was in the same outfit.
So not only did the phone call come, so did an engraved invitation from the White House. That'd be hard for anyone to resist.
If he was here, I'd be gung-ho. Mm-hmm. As I said, I'd probably be pushing him out the door. Mm-hmm. But since he's gone, I have no interest to go. Oh, they think I'm nuts.
This grandma isn't nuts. She's grateful for the honor. But sometimes you reach a point in life where home is simply more important. Here, knitting in her favorite chair, surrounded by the memories of her life. And there's one more reason why she didn't go.
Well, I couldn't wear my jeans to the White House. And I don't dress up that much anymore. I'm not White House material. That's all there's to it. I just lived in Kansas all my life.
Nona is 92 now, and she doesn't mind giving us her age, still as good-natured as she can be. And she's still living her quiet life in Salina, and says she never had any second thoughts about turning down that invitation to the White House. She just didn't want to go.
Just a humble gal. Well, we thank her husband and her for service to our country.
Yeah, and she told me if her husband had been alive, she would have probably gone. You know, that would have been nice.
All right. Well, sometimes the greatest inspiration comes in the midst of crisis.
And that's what happened in Hillsboro, Kansas, when a beloved and historic church burned to the ground. Some journalists reported on the fire came up with a way, though, to turn their journalism into a fundraiser to help the congregation rebuild.
Images of crisis, courage, and commitment headline a new book about the disastrous Hillsboro Mennonite church fire.
We feel like we're pretty much part of the community here. I mean, what happens here is our business.
Hey, it's going good. Good.
Joel Klassen is the publisher of the Hillsboro Free Press and a longtime book publisher. When the fire destroyed the church, he felt the paper could do more, so the book was born.
They were trying to cut a hole in the roof.
Yeah, they did. Did we get that shot in?
Yeah.
Then it was up to editor Don Ratzlaff, book designer Diane Steiner, and the newspaper writers to create Trial by Fire.
So it's really a story of hope. It's not really a book so much about a tragedy.
But it was perhaps Don Ratzlaff who was most conflicted by the assignment. On the day of the fire, he was there taking pictures, but he is also the church moderator. It was his 123-year-old church on fire.
I found it hard to do both jobs. Being one of the church leaders, there were a lot of just people I wanted to talk to, and just sometimes we're just mesmerized by the flames. You're pretty much caught up in what's going on with the building and what the people were feeling and what they were saying. And in that moment, it was more important to do that than, I guess, to be a good journalist.
More than 800 pictures were submitted by the newspaper staff and by townspeople. And it was Diane Steiner's job to create the book's look.
And we weeded it down to the best 82. I think this is always going to be an important book. This is going to be something that Grandma is going to set her little granddaughter on her lap and say, you know, this is where I was baptized. This is where your Grandpa and I got married. This is a big event. I mean, this is something that's going to be remembered for a long time.
So, to help, every time this book is sold, $10 goes to the church building fund.
I'm really proud and pleased that we have been able to complete this project.
So from crisis through courage and to commitment, local newspapers like the Free Press help bridge the gap in local communities between hope and reality.
Images of crisis, courage, and commitment. And those are the three things that we really wanted the book to illustrate and to tell the story of.
Now, Joel Klassen says they ended up selling about 500 of the books, and that contributed to about $5,000 towards the rebuilding efforts.
I remember when that church burned. It was a very sad day, but
it was.
Thank goodness for 3 years the congregation did meet at a local school and at Tabor College, but they moved into their brand new building in 2007.
Yeah, Joel Klassen has since retired from the newspaper, and new people own the newspaper there, but it's the power of journalism in a small community.
Absolutely. As that book demonstrates, nothing tells a story like pictures, and few people have taken more pictures in their lives than Les Broadstreet.
Now, Les was one of the greatest master photographers Wichita ever had, and even if you don't recognize the name, I know you've seen his work.
Never been able to relax.
A camera is just a piece of polished metal. The lens, nothing more than glass. But when Les Broadstreet puts that camera to his eye, as he has done since 1936, the camera becomes a magic box of color and light.
Surprised me in the fact that I've been able to, in my 68 years, touch a life or two.
It has been a lifetime of work for Broadstreet, and at 87, it continues for one of Wichita's oldest master photographers.
I just enjoy people. I can't quit. I just enjoy what I do.
His photographs are on display at City Arts in Old Town, but it is only a small portion of his work. How do you put a lifetime on a wall?
I had a lot of fun doing it. People ask me whether it's a stuffed bird or not. Well, I just tell them as much food as I gave them, they'd ought to have been stuffed.
If you've never heard of Les, you've certainly seen his work. His cityscapes are legendary. While photography is his joy, so is his wife, Bernice. He is her full-time caregiver, and after 65 years of marriage, their lives are framed together.
The Lord's been so good to me in so many ways.
And Les has been good to us, capturing those little moments that make us smile or give us a sense of history. Photographer Les Broadstreet just keeps on clicking.
To beat carrying rocks to a rock crusher at 25 cents an hour when I was in high school.
Now, his wife Bernice passed away in 2015, and then Les died a year later. He lived to be 99. But before passing away, Les donated decades worth of his film negatives to Wichita State University. And he was a classic photographer in Wichita. And if you look at his work, it just takes you back in time.
I love pictures that take you back in time. They're, to me, worth the most.
Absolutely, no question.
If anyone knows what classic photography is all about, it's Larry Hatteberg. That's for sure. And now to moving pictures and a film that made history, shot right here in Kansas.
Now, the year was 1982, and tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were sparking fears of nuclear war. Now, a Hollywood crew showed up in Lawrence to depict the worst-case scenario and what might happen the day after.
This is a normal soybean crop. But on this farm near Lawrence, it's about the only normal thing you'll see. The reason? Hollywood came to the country. ABC television is filming a 4-hour special on the effects of a nuclear war on a local population. Tentatively called the day after, the Hollywood folks will require 24 days of shooting near Lawrence, and it should add over $1 million to the Lawrence economy.
Very quiet, please.
The Ross Wolfkuhl farm near Lawrence, the site of a portion of the filmmaking. Inside, where our cameras couldn't go, interior scenes were being photographed. Mrs. Wolfkuhl waited and watched outside as over 60 technicians parked trucks, set up lights, and turned their home into a Hollywood set.
We thought that if movies were to come to Kansas, somebody would have to give them a site and an opportunity to make a picture. If you don't have a site, you don't have a movie.
Yes, Marty?
Would you get a hold of Lamar and tell him I need a torch kit up here and a baseball mitt, and if we have like another toy or a doll or something.
A torch kit, a baseball mitt, and a doll of some kind.
Right.
While a director's assistant secures some last-minute props, another crew is about to film the demise of this old barn. The script says the barn is destroyed from a nuclear blast. These machines are standing by to produce winds of 140 miles an hour to help heighten the reality of the desired effect.
No, I want to see the barn simply lift up and go.
So now all 3 cameras are positioned for the shot. Our news camera is located in a smaller barn 150 feet from the blast. For the Hollywood people, the blast was captured on film. For us, the concussion knocked a door loose, and here's what happened to our shot. Hollywood won, TV news, nothing. The big winner here was farmer Ross Wolfkuhl, whose splintered old barn is about to be replaced.
That was one agreement I think we have, and that is that they replaced my cattle shed that was onto the side of the barn here with a new barn. So I hope that they'll be out building one up in the next day or two.
The film, with all Kansas locations, will be shown on network television in about a year. From Lawrence, this is Larry Hatteberg for TV 10 News.
Now, the ABC network spent $1 million in Lawrence while shooting this film.
And it proved to be a ratings blockbuster in the U.S. It was also shown in the Soviet Union a few years later. Now, the film is said to have had an impact on Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev and helped bring about the end of the Cold War. And that stands to reason because it showed what happened the day after.
That's right, and one of the most scariest scenes in that was when you see the Titan II missiles coming out of missile silos over the football field from KU. If you were sitting in the stands at KU, the film showed the missiles rising out of the ground.
And that was before the Titan missiles were taken out of the ground from all over Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
They were still there.
They were still there.
In 1982. Yeah. Well, before the Cold War, there was World War II, of course, and that war helped shape the character of an entire generation, a generation that included Milton Taylor, of Eureka.
Now, Milt's life experience was too valuable not to share, so he did, with kids at the local school.
I feel like when I start out at Hall, I'm kind of walking on air a little bit.
With a rich history of World War II and a desire to help children, 80-year-old Milt Taylor is a beloved member of this Eureka classroom.
Hello. How y'all are doing today?
At Elwood Marshall Elementary School in Phyllis Milner's class, Milt Taylor is a twice-a-week fixture.
And it makes me feel young again. I mean, sometimes when I go home, I'm ready to fall all apart. The Battle of the Castle. But for a while, and I feel real good because I can see the good that's happening.
And he met a Silver Knight.
He's 12. How much older is he now?
He was 10 in the first adventure, and now he's 12.
Eureka teacher Phyllis Milner says he's a gold mine in the classroom.
And so they're learning in an unstructured way and just a friendly way.
Caverns.
Caverns on my throat.
Part of his work is one-on-one reading with children. They love it, their reading improves, and so do their test scores.
I can see a sense of pride with the boys and girls, and I think it has a lot to do with Milt coming in.
Because so many of the young people of my age, he was all in the Army.
He's one of those elder members of society who's always enjoyed helping children. But instead of retiring his life's memories of a nation at war to a scrapbook, he gives them to this generation.
When I went into the Army back in 42, the Army is a lot different than it was at that time.
Milt has shared all kinds of stories. There's even a bulletin board with his activities on it, including teaching the children how to fold a flag.
One time my daughter came and recorded it because she said I said things that she never did know yet that had happened.
I was walking home from school.
Milt could have just stayed home. Could have, but he doesn't. He's part of the next generation, a man who by sharing builds citizens one at a time.
It makes me feel good that I'm at least doing something.
And Milt kept going as long as he could. He passed away 2 years after that interview at age 83. And it's so nice, though, when people from the World War II generation shared their life and their stories with kids who just see that as ancient history.
They see it as ancient, and there was someone who was still alive.
Right.
Well, there still are people who are still alive who that was their life. It wasn't ancient history.
Oh, exactly.
And, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, here's another Kansan whose life experience helped keep history alive for future generations. His name was Merv Kreiser.
Yeah, after a long career in the Wichita Fire Department, Merv helped save the city's oldest fire station and then turn it into a museum. It's a tribute to all those men and women who have helped protect our property and save our lives through the years.
We thought they were going to tear this station down, and we all got together and decided that this is what needed to be done, and we just got after it.
When Merv Kreiser goes to the Firemen's Museum on South Broadway, he is no stranger.
I guess being a retired fireman, it was just part of my makeup to be interested in firefighting equipment and memorabilia, history.
The former firefighter has 400 historical artifacts stored here.
History is something you can't replace. I love old cars and old fire trucks.
Plus, he was the ramrod who oversaw restoration on this 1921 fire truck.
It's been completely restored from the frame up. It's donated to us from Garden City Fire Department.
The museum is the hard work of many volunteers who have spent countless hours restoring, repairing, and saving Wichita's fire department history.
It's the last horse-drawn fire station in Wichita.
But time and money are never on their side.
It's a hidden treasure. People don't know about it. We encourage people to come and visit us.
For guys like Merv, whose personal history is now intertwined with this museum.
I know it represents a tremendous amount of pride in all of us that has worked on this endeavor.
Sitting in the restored truck that he and other volunteers saved, it is a moment of special appreciation.
A lot of power. This thing is only 90-some horse, but 500 cubic inch engine. It's so powerful, you just barely give it a little gas and it's take off.
As I found out last summer during a fireman's parade utilizing the old truck.
They don't make them like this anymore.
But it is the museum itself that is the heart and soul of all the work of the volunteers.
I can smell the history, yes, I can.
Their hope is that the rest of Wichita will see what these volunteers like Merv already know. History is worth saving.
Good feeling.
The Kansas Firefighters Museum open to the public on Saturdays from 11 to 3. You can go anytime on Saturdays from 11 to 3, but groups can also schedule private tours.
Unfortunately, you won't find Merv there anymore. He passed away from cancer on Christmas Eve 2017 at age 83.
But he left us the museum.
He did.
Which we will always treasure.
Wonderful place.
When most of us think of harps, we think of angels or other kind of heavenly moments. But Kansan Tabitha Reist has made this unusual instrument her life, and critics have taken notice.
Hi, this is Tabitha from the Wichita Grand Opera. How are you?
Tabitha Reist works for the Wichita Grand Opera. She is assistant to Parvan Bakardian, the man who makes the opera happen.
Okay, where is it going to be? I'm learning a lot, and I feel very fortunate to be working in the arts, especially the music.
But she is so much more.
Most of my day is spent, in an office, and then I come home, and the last thing I want to do is work some more.
Tabitha is also principal harpist for the opera, and on her own is making a name for herself with her music.
The harp for me comes very naturally. I think the harp chose me more than I chose the harp as an instrument, and the love for the instrument comes naturally. It's neat how the string just fits right into a groove into your finger, and it's just a great feeling.
Tabitha has been practicing with the harp since she was 8. This is her master's recital at the conclusion of her Master of Music degree at the Peabody Conservatory at Johns Hopkins University.
Playing the harp for me means joy. I started harp on my 8th birthday, and at the time, I thought, what a horrible way to spend my birthday, and it's grown into the biggest blessing that's been in my life.
Since then, this quietly talented young woman has performed with the Dayton Symphony and the Kansas City Philharmonic. There, a reviewer for the Kansas City Star called her performance some of the most precise and beautifully inflected harp playing he had heard in years.
It feels good to have someone write something great about you. You never play as good in public as you do at home by yourself, and you think to yourself, well, if only he would have heard me play like I did at home by myself, what would he have said then?
Now, working with the Wichita Grand Opera, Tabitha feels fortunate to have a job in the arts and fortunate to be in Wichita.
Great. I'm very grateful for it, and I am very lucky to be a part of it, and it's this exciting, growing opera in Wichita, Kansas. I was born and raised in Kansas, and I feel very lucky to be doing music in my home state.
Now that was 16 years ago. Tabitha now lives in Overland Park with her husband and 2 small children.
She has made quite a name for herself, playing with many symphony orchestras and recently cutting an album. She also has taught at Washburn and Baker universities and gives private lessons as well.
Yeah, it was great to meet her and hear her play the harp. I went to her apartment and she had the harp there and was practicing on it. And when you hear a harp in a closed area, it is ethereal. I mean,
it is.
You feel like you're a little bit in heaven.
It's beautiful music.
It is.
Well, the tick-tock of the clock says it's time for us to hit the road, Jack.
Actually, Larry. But before we go, take down this email address and send us a note. HattebergsPeople@kpts.org. We enjoy all your kind comments about the show, and even unkind ones.
Yeah.
Until next time, I'm Larry Hatteberg.
And I'm Susan Peters. Thank you for watching. And thanks to Larry, of course, for sharing more of his amazing stories with us.
No, you're so sweet. Another batch on the way next week. We'll see you then.